pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Welcome to this Tuesday, December 6th Board of Commissioners meeting. First item of business is public comment, which would be for anyone that is not on the agenda. Not seeing any, I will move on. We have Karen Crum with the Purdue Extension Office contract renewal.
Yep, absolutely.
Morning, Karen.
Good morning. So, verbiage stays the same, only the dollar amount changes. Mr. Little has reviewed that previously. Mr. Brewer also has received a copy of it. Maybe all of you have, but, yep, just here to get signatures today.
Okay. Any questions from you guys? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the extension contract for another year.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Third.
Motion carries 3-0. You have a card.
I have a copy, yeah.
Just one signature?
Yes.
Okay.
On
Yeah.
2 pages, but yes. And then I will get you signed copies. Or do you want to just sign another one? I don't know how you want to do that, because we've already signed it.
You've seen it, right? You saw the new one.
You have one too.
I do.
I'll try and get all of them here real quick.
And then you can keep one, I can keep one, you're good. Then I'll see you tomorrow at Learning to Lead.
Yep. 8:30?
Yeah,
Okay. I think that's ours.
yep. I know, I've been so busy today, I don't know if I'm coming or going.
There you go. Thank you.
so much.
Next up is Stephen Deckard with the IU Health contract. Good morning, Stephen.
Do you want to touch on it?
Go ahead. You can kind of take us through it, and maybe I'll fill in the gaps because I think you're more adversed on some of the details than I am. So.
Okay. So today kind of marks the conclusion of nearly 12 months of work for 3 contracts with IU Health Frankfurt. The 3 contracts are, one is for supervising hospital agreement, the other is for transportation services agreement, and then the third is a pharmacy replenishment agreement. The supervising hospital agreement, this simply, it's a requirement by the Department of Homeland Security that we have a supervising hospital. They've always signed the paperwork for us, but this now establishes it in contract form that they will supervise us, and they will also provide us a medical director free of cost. The pharmacy renewal, that gives us the opportunity to buy our pharmaceuticals through IU Health instead of through other vendors such as Boundtree or J&B Medical. And just for instance, IV fluids, which is, fancy salt water, it costs $32 for a case through IU Health versus $150 through Boundtree. So pretty significant savings for our department with that. And then thirdly is the transportation services. So this is the transfer contract, basically. And it pretty much establishes ground rules that ensure that the 911 pre-hospital community is not jeopardized with interfacility transfers that are non-emergency, so we can optimize our 911 response to the community. But in the instance of emergency transfers, it ensures that we will perform those and that it gives us set criteria and guidelines associated with that have been decided by the medical director of the IU Health West Central Region, IU Health Frankfurt, and myself. So ultimately, I think this is very successful for us as a department as well as a county.
Agree, and I guess I would like to reiterate that this took almost a year, a lot of work from the members of this board as well as Stephen going above and beyond to get this kind of flowing in a different direction than it had been and renewing it. And a couple things that I'd like to mention that changed or were amended. So the rate for the reimbursements will now be updated annually to kind of keep up with the costs that are happening out there. And then another thing was, in the past, all the agreements had different termination clauses, and so now all the termination are going to be uniform across all three agreements. And I think lastly, you touched on it a little bit, with the transfers, the non-emergency, correct me if I'm wrong here, the non-emergency, there's a break from midnight to 7 a.m.
Yes.
Correct, yeah. So we'll do all the transfers from 7 a.m. till 12 a.m. And then if it's an emergency, we'll continue to do the transfers. But if it's a non-emergency transfer, then it'll wait till 7 a.m. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and to kind of expand on that for the general public, sleep deprivation in pre-hospital work environments is something that's been heavily assessed by the Department of Homeland Security at the state level as well as federally over the last several years. And so Indiana Department of Homeland Security issued a recommendation several months ago, and one of those recommendations with preventing sleep deprivation for EMS crews was to limit non-emergency transfers between midnight and 7 a.m. And so for our crew members that are doing, 48-hour shifts, if you're doing 3 non-emergency transfers between midnight and 7 a.m., on your first 24, it really leads for a long 24 the next day. And, we think, they can just do it, that's their job, but it increases our risk of a motor vehicle accident. It also increases our risk of medication errors. And so really it is patient safety driven. It's not just us as providers, it's patient safety too. So.
Any other comments or questions from
None.
you guys?
Stephen, I want to personally thank you for the effort. As you know, you've taken some hits, and it's been somewhat ugly as the beginning, but I think you've done an outstanding job, and I appreciate your additional efforts to get over the hump.
Thank you. Glad we could recover from, a tough beginning.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to move forward with the 3 IU Health contracts.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0. Stephen, you mind if I get them after the meeting? All right, okay, we'll move forward here. I'll sign them at the end. All right, next up, we have Community Howard Behavioral Health Frankfurt Clinic update. Good morning.
Yeah, hello, good morning. So I'm George Hurd. I'm the Vice President for Behavioral Health at Community Health Network, and I appreciate you guys giving us time today. We wanted to give a business performance update around our operations here in Frankfurt. And I think the important thing to explain up front is we're going to start working towards some adjustments in the service here in Frankfurt. It has been a difficult couple years for healthcare systems, and behavioral health in general has also had a very difficult time. I think a lot of you are aware we're the community mental health center for this county. So we're designated and required to provide care and service regardless of a person's ability to pay or the status of their condition. And we understand that. But right now, the business environment conditions at our current location is such that we're going to have to adjust the services we deliver. Not that we're changing our status and will continue to provide all the safety net services and care and support, but we're probably going to have to transition away from our current location and look for other ways to deliver those services, and even how we re-engage in a possible new location in the future. We've had to do this before in other communities. Quite simply, the location where we're in is difficult for us to maintain our level of service and care at that location at this point in time. I know this is a kind of a difficult decision we've had to make, and I'm wanting to start the dialogue. This meeting was necessitated by the fact that our lease required a year's notice, and so we are in the process of providing notice that we will be vacating from that location. And so I didn't want to not update the commissioners about the changes in our service, and it be, heard about or understood in a different way. What we will be doing is shifting some of our services. We will probably shift in a way that will provide more enhanced community-based services. One of the great things about our services through the pandemic was we've established new and different ways to provide services, telephonically and virtually in ways that we haven't been able to do before. And then between our virtual, our other clinics where we might need to be able to support people in our community-based services is how we're going to switch for a period of time as we look to how best to support the community. So we're currently going through our due diligence processes now, advising different key stakeholders, whether it be the state, our landlord, here as the commission report, and others about our changes in services that we're going to have to make. I also think you understand and hopefully appreciate, and prior reports that we've given, we serve a very large Medicaid and Medicare population, as well as private paid, so sometimes uninsured populations. And it's still very much true, and while we effort really hard around increasing our reimbursements, it is true that our reimbursements for behavioral health services, especially attached to those government payers, have not adjusted since the 1990s. And it's very difficult at this point in time to continue some of the services with the current pressures of today's financial environments with rates that were essentially established in the late 1990s. And so we are currently adjusting things to make sure that we're providing the required services, but at the same time doing so in a way that we can make it sustainable, looking for opportunities where we can position ourselves again to have better rates in the future, depending on the situation we might move ourselves into in terms of a new location.
Okay. Get questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
No, first of all, I wanted to thank you for letting us know up front and that you're going to terminate your lease, and we didn't have to hear it from someone else. That's huge, and we appreciate that very much. Secondly, when you say you're transferring, I don't know if I want to quote you directly or not. You're transferring away some services, or maybe I'm not saying that right.
Yeah.
So are you going to be here for another year?
We will be transitioning our services over this next
Transitioning,
year
that's what you said. I'm sorry.
away from the clinic
Right.
and providing more community-based, so in people's homes,
Okay.
as well as virtually and other ways that we're going to deliver the service.
Okay.
So some of the, what would be considered to be clinic services that we've done in the past, we will be transitioning in a different way to do that.
Okay.
We have a clinic in both Kokomo and one in Tipton. So some clinic services will still be offered there.
Okay.
And we will be responsible to help people get those services. And it's still, and I'll say this, we've gone through this process in other communities in the past. Tipton being one, where we had to transition into a more community-based focus position until we could find a better location
Okay.
that allowed us to reestablish a clinic. As you can imagine, these aren't quick processes. They can take some time. It's still our desire to be able to do that, but
Okay.
we will still provide all the services that are required as part of our community mental health center designation to the county.
Okay.
So when will your lease end here?
The lease actually ends November of '23. Again, we had to provide a year's notice.
Sure.
And so we're letting people know. But we'll probably spend the next 3 to 4 months as we work towards shifting our services so that we can do that. But it requires us to provide appropriate upfront notices.
And so, if I'm understanding, kind of following on Josh, there'll be a gap where there's no physical location here?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm not, there, what we will effort to do is, and we've done this before, we'll find some space where we'll provide services here, but it won't be in a traditional clinic like we have.
Gotcha.
We have certainly, through the good nature of the community, had places where we've used offices and did things like that and still been able to provide those services. What we have to do is, quite honestly, adjust our cost structures to better align with where we need to be until we can reposition ourselves again.
So the plan is to eventually have a physical location here again.
Yeah, certainly it will be our goal to establish one in the future. We just need to work through some transitions as we do that.
Well, as you know, it's important to us. There's a lot of people that really can't get in their car and go to Kokomo for services. And even personally, I've been involved a couple of times with going to your Kokomo facilities. And, you know, there's a struggle and a lot of work that you have there. So, you know, to me, it's important that we have the ability to get some of our people back here. So to find a location, in my opinion, is extremely important to us as a community.
Yeah. This hasn't been a situation that's just developed over the last year. I've been in my role now for 6 years, and I have efforted over the last 5 years in trying to make this a clinic that can support itself. But certainly the last couple years have made that even more critical that we move in a way that positions us in a more sustainable way. I understand that. It's also my hope, I will say the persons who are most severely impacted with their needs, we will transition them to where coming to a clinic won't be required. We'll service them in their community. And we do this in other communities. And so we'll make sure that the people who are most needing care will receive it. If not in the clinic, we'll provide it in their home.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay.
And certainly, I think we're back in January to provide our required report about the number of services, the populations, and we have that data collected already, but we'll be back in January. In between there, happy to have any other dialogues, discussions that we might need to have. And certainly, we want to be a great partner. We consider ourselves to be that in the community. And so however we can work as closely as possible as we move through this transition, and then whatever comes after this, we want to work together to do that.
Okay.
That's great.
Thank you.
Is it simply a cost situation that you're involved with now? Is that what I'm reading between the lines?
It is certainly a cost situation. And again, I can't say it any more clearly that it's been an issue for years. And we have certainly worked through that at various points in different ways. But the pressures of the last couple years have made it very, very difficult. And again, I can't say this strong enough, and I do this any audience I can where there's people who could influence this, because our rates are obviously decisions that are made at state and federal levels. But the rates for behavioral health not adjusting since the late 90s obviously does not allow for this to be a situation that makes it really sustainable. Obviously, I ask everybody to advocate for appropriate safety net funding when it comes to things like this.
And I'm Dr. Allison Bordeaux, and I'm the Executive Director of Operations and oversee, and I got the honor to be here last year and got to present with you, Danielle. I just want to also mention that this literally is bricks and mortar. We are not terming any of our staff. We are keeping our staff. We have definitely had some great conversations with our staff around providing these services in the homes, and like I said, finding even like a landing zone to continue to provide some of these services while we're kind of in this transition period. So I also just want to reiterate that it really is about bricks and mortar.
Okay,
All right.
we understand that.
So appreciate it, and again, if there's any questions, please reach out to me, and then we'll be back in January.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
Thank you for the update. Next up is Liz Stitzel with the area plan update.
Good morning.
Good morning, Liz.
Morning.
I don't have a whole lot. Obviously, grass is done for the season. We're continuing to work on the house in Antioch that had been mentioned before, and we've got some other stuff. But nothing of particular note that requires a decision this morning, unless you have anything for me.
Do not?
I do not.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, you know where to find me if that changes.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rick Campbell with a highway update, which will also probably just transition into our old business with the highway material bids.
Morning.
Morning, Rick.
I have the utility reimbursement agreement for Bridge 55 for the
Okay.
commissioners to sign and also the auditor to sign. I also have a little note here I made of things that I wanted to do next year for the commissioners to look over, maybe ask questions about. So I'll just start down here.
We probably need to approve
Yeah.
that first, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the utility reimbursement agreement.
Motion to approve.
And second.
All right, motion carries 3-0.
We're still hauling stone right now and patching some roads when the weather is fit. That's basically, what's going on right now.
Okay. You guys have any questions for current items going on with the highway?
I do not.
Nope. So we'll move on to the material bids. I believe we received those last time, compiled them, they were on our drive for us to review, and we took them under advisement, so I'll allow Rick to kind of shed some light on his thoughts on them.
Okay, all the bids went up quite a bit for stone. Delphi went up $1 for 53 stone, and Logansport went up 85 cents for 53 stone. Most of this other stuff that we use, 11s and the 9s, went up $1.75, $1.25. Basically, for every 15 tons, which is what we haul on a truck, for every 15 tons, it went up about $20 a load. Hot mix went up, it went up $3, the cheapest bid. It went up $3, so that's another $45 a load. So
Okay.
I like to just approve the bids.
Yeah, so we typically approve all of them, and then it allows
Right.
Rick the ability to go to
I'm gonna-
whichever vendor
I'm gonna
is
try to get as much out of Logansport as I can.
yeah, available, because as you told me on the phone, there's some issues, like Delphi cut him off
They cut
in
us off.
November and
There's
wouldn't
a-
allow him to take any more
Pick it
stone,
back.
so we
There's
need
a-
the option to be able to go to multiple locations.
With all the building going on right now, they're wanting to sell stone to them instead of us. They kind of forgotten about who takes care of them when there's recessions on
Yeah,
and nobody's building.
right.
So,
With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the highway material bids that were provided, so Rick could utilize them for 2023.
So moved.
And I'll
you guys
second.
have any questions about the stuff I was wanting to do next year?
No, I was just looking over it real quick. I was just thinking about Kelly. I was just thinking about Kelly Road the other day and the community crossing, so we're
It's-
definitely on the same page. I think we
it's-
find out today at 10 a.m., right?
I don't know that, I haven't heard
Yeah.
that.
I was
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
the community crossing,
But I've got Butler Fairman working on
Okay.
that already, because I
Okay.
wanna, you gotta be the first one out of the gate.
oh, yeah.
I feel like you gotta be the first one out of the gate, you gotta answer all the questions right.
Yep.
You gotta be the first one to answer all the questions right, so.
Yep. Good for you.
But if, any suggestions, why,
Okay.
about any of that other stuff,
No, I like
I
it.
appreciate the heads up.
and we've had, like I said, we've had, in the letter there, we've had some questions about the dead trees.
Oh,
And some of them are falling out toward the road and they're getting caught in another tree. Well, they don't like driving past that, so they want us to take them down. So
I got you.
as soon as we get some more funds, we'll take some of them down. We have to have a tree trimmer do that. We can't touch anything above the wires.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Okay?
I appreciate it.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
Rick.
Thanks, Rick.
We'll jump backwards. We had a motion, a second. Motion carries 3-0 to approve the highway material bids for 2023. Okay, next up under old business is the approval of the Paul Philippi quarterly grant. This is both federal and state money that transitions through the commissioners, through the county to Paul Philippi for their rural transit. So I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0. All right, last item under old business is we have McGuire Iron Payout number 13, which I don't believe requires approval since it goes through the building corp. I don't know if there was any questions on it. This is for the 500,000 gallon elevated water tank at 65 and 28. They are, let's see if I can see it. So we put it at close to 96% complete, which I have an update to kind of tag along with this. As you guys remember, we had kind of taken a hardline stance on the substantial completion to be done by the end of 2022. They've run into two issues, and we've had a request specifically from Frankfort Municipal Utilities. So the generator is back ordered, and there's concern. McGuire feels they will have everything done by the substantial completion of 12/31. However, without the generator, Frankfort Municipal Utilities has concern that there's potential freezing of the booster because if the power goes out, there's no backup power. So the request is to move the substantial completion back till 4/30 to the spring, because the generator is currently tagged to show up in March, and this will allow for McGuire Iron to continue to have the liability and responsibility
Until
of
that time.
starting the tank and then discharging it and not having any issue with pipes bursting, and that responsibility be transferred to Frankfort Municipal Utilities. So to me, there's no change in terms of price. It's just an extension until the spring, so that basically the system will work correctly when that time comes. So to me, it's an honorable request, and I feel comfortable with it.
I agree.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0 to change the substantial completion on the elevated tank from 12/31 to 4/30 of 2023. All right, next up, we have Resolution 2022-10, which is for the health officer. I don't know if, Rodney, do you want to give us any specifics on this, or you want me to kind of read through it and go from there? Or Dr. Tharp, either one.
First of all, I want to thank all of the commissioners and the council for listening to our proposal and getting things in line to make this happen. For some time, I, as the current health officer, have been concerned about how health officers get chosen, how they get educated. And we have a rather antiquated system that has been, in fact, reviewed by the governor's Public Health Commission. And they're making recommendations for statewide kinds of changes. But I was particularly impressed that we had a physician in our community who was interested in becoming the health officer and had a lot of good questions, but didn't know all of the things that go on. And so I worked with as many people as I could to try to get a system that could more in perpetuity help us get adequate health officers. I think that this is a very good way to go forward and ensure that we have people in the community who are available and appropriate for that position. So after discussing it with our health board, we agreed to submit a proposal to add an assistant, or I'm not sure if a deputy would be I'm not sure what the title should be, but an assistant health officer that would allow someone to come in and learn the ropes as well as, get at some succession planning in place. And we kind of flip-flopped at this point in order to accommodate Dr. Pearson, who is looking to take this position, take the health officer position. And I felt that it would be easiest for everyone if I was appointed to the assistant position so that I could help to mentor her during any transition time, and then we can continue with bringing on new people through the assistant position for later on. So that's the proposal that we have made, and the county council agreed that this was a good investment, and I leave it to you to let us know if you think it's the right thing to do for Clinton County.
Okay, so this resolution would appoint Dr. Melissa Pearson as the health officer and Dr. Stephen Tharp as the assistant health officer. Is that
Right, and I would recommend the appointment begin at the beginning of the year.
Yep, January 1, 2023. I guess the only question I would have is, this will free up an appointment on the board since she was a board member, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So we will have that appointment available for January 1, since she's transitioning from board member to health officer.
Yes.
So, any other questions?
I've had the opportunity to work with her throughout many years, and I think she'd be a good addition. And I think that in talking to Dr. Tharp previously and so forth, this is the right way to go so that we don't have a lapse and, things get south with somebody that we're not familiar with or whatever. So I applaud them for taking the steps ahead to prevent us from, dropping or losing
Yes.
ground.
And the only other comment I'd make is that, I have spoken with people at the State Department of Health about the problem. The Governor's Commission did recognize that we have a problem across the state getting health officers that are qualified and willing to provide services. And they felt that this plan would be helpful. There are other things that they're considering. We don't know what they're going to do in the long run, but I think that having this in place will give us a much better chance to have a local health officer that's a member of the community.
I think that's very valuable. So I will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2022-10.
So moved. Second.
All right, motion carries 3-0. And so starting January 1 of '23, Dr. Tharp will move to the Assistant Health Officer, and Dr. Pearson will move to the Health Officer.
Dr. Tharp, thank you for your years of help.
It's been a pleasure. Mostly.
Mostly, thank you, yeah. Okay, next up, department heads. Have any department heads that would like to speak? Renee?
Just a quick update. Friday, I held a meeting. I had Clarks Hill, Laramie, volunteer fire department members come over to meet to continue to discuss and make sure we're moving forward with the fire coverage for Washington Township. I invited Stephen as EMS director, Captain Myers with the sheriff's office, and Chief Stidham from Frankfurt Fire, just so make sure everybody's on the same page. I've been moving forward, getting our guidelines and policies in place. So we had a good meeting today, I believe. Chief Stidham was going to have a meeting on their coverage, and he will provide me maps because I need to get our mapping vendor, get everything to our mapping vendor so that all of our CAD information is correct when this change takes place. So we had a good meeting and some good discussion. So just trying to make sure it all comes together like it's supposed to.
Change happens January 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Are we sharing the expense with the township that made
No
the move?
expense from us.
We're doing.
We are not incurring any of the cost.
Okay.
It's on them. And I think Clarks Hill is actually taking maybe a little bit of expense, but yeah,
Okay.
we're not.
So we're not, that's all.
No, no.
I'll say they even declined to sign into a contract for like what we normally reimburse the volunteers for responding to calls. That's calls they declined to use any of our supplies reimbursement, so they've been very easy to work with.
Good. Okay. All right.
Okay. I don't have anything else, I don't believe, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any. We'll move on to commissioner reports. Open it up to you gentlemen, if you have any reports. None?
I have none.
I have two. Where's the space thing? The first one, I don't know if it's a report. Tom received, and correct me where I may get off base here, Tom, but we had received a judgment that, to be a part of a lawsuit, correct?
Correct.
For back funds that were owed to the EMS department, roughly $1,300. And I believe there was some conflict with Tom handling this versus the individual that owes it. And so for us to be a part of that lawsuit to collect, we would have to engage Les Burgum of Ryan Moore, Cook, Triplett, and Albertson LLP. So I have this engagement letter if we are interested in doing that. The exact amount is $1,277.33. And I believe the reason that we are involved is there is a bank, the Bank of New York, is going after some other assets, and this is part of the liability claim.
Right, yeah, it was a foreclosure action that the bank brought against the property, but EMS had secured a judgment against the property back when this amount was owed. And so basically what I usually do is when I see this, I enter my appearance and do a counterclaim just to secure our rights to the property. There's no guarantees, though, that there's going to be enough money after the fact to pay Clinton County because the first lien holder that would be the bank would have first priority, and then we would fall in line. But our position in line would be secured by doing this. I don't know how much equity is in the house. I don't know, I mean, the chances of recovery could be less than 50%. I think Les Burgum, I told him I'd like for them to do it for $500 or less, I think is what I quoted. So that's kind of what you're looking at. So normally I just do it as part of my attorney job for Clinton County.
Get 1,200.
Yeah, so we're gonna spend $500 to get.
Maybe get
1,200, yeah. So it's on the table if we wanna think about it.
Okay.
And maybe make a decision by our next meeting, right?
Okay.
Tom? I mean, that's.
He's under a deadline, he's got to
Okay.
respond here pretty quick. I did enter my appearance and ask for an extension of time, so I was just gonna withdraw as soon as a decision was made.
Can we determine the amount of exposure that the others have? I mean, is that,
I don't know if you can until you get into it. It's a good question, I'm not sure. And I know Les, he said he already has like an hour wrapped up in this, so I just talked to him yesterday. I'm sure he'd probably want a commitment to do any more work.
I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm indifferent on it, so I'll default to whatever you guys want. I mean, on the first hand, I think we would have a responsibility to try and go after it, but at the other hand, I'm, 500 to get potentially 1,200, so net of 700 is that worth it when the odds are probably below 50%? So
I'm indifferent too.
What, you think we need a decision here quickly, Tom?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's under a deadline to have to file his counterclaim if he does move forward with it.
What happens if, can we cap less at that 500? I mean, can he?
I asked that he keep it 500 or under, and I mentioned that to him when we were at a CLE at Barnes and Thornburg a few weeks back. But you could pass it, or you could pass it here to say
Not
hey,
to
not to
exceed.
exceed 500, and then it'd be up to him if he wanted to continue on.
Okay.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think the odds are long, but every little bit counts.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll entertain a motion. for
so
that.
moved.
Okay.
I will second it.
All right.
At a cap of 500.
Yeah. So we have a motion to engage Les Bergam for this judgment claim with to not exceed $500 in legal expenses going after the $1,200. I don't really see a place to sign, so I'll just make my own signature line. The next thing, just an announcement. We received a flyer, and it's for the public as well. There's a farewell celebration for Ray Harris on tomorrow, December 7th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. So as many of you know, she will not be the clerk going into 23, and so this is a celebration that they're throwing for her. It'll be on the second floor of the courthouse. So I don't think I have any other updates for us, so we will move on to claims. We have claims dated December 2nd in the amount of $235,055.59. Biweekly claims dated December 6th in the amount of $396,610.22. Court claims dated December 6th in the amount of $28,365.92. And a claim dated November 21st in the amount of $45,000.
Motion to approve.
And second.
Motion carries 3-0 to approve the claims. Next, we have payroll dated November 18th in the amount of $461,470.83.
Motion to approve payroll.
Second.
Motion carries 3-0 on payroll. We have regular minutes from November 21st and special meeting minutes from November 10th.
Motion to approve minutes.
And second.
I will, we'll kind of do it two ways, because I wasn't at the special meeting, so I will go 3-0 on the regular minutes, and I will abstain from the special minutes. Okay, is there any other business that needs to come before the commissioners? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to.
Thank you.
Second.
I thought I heard it.
Yeah.